Hey, Mitch.
Oh, hey, Ed. Hey, what's up with the crazy getup today?
What do you mean? You told me we were going to be talking about, the sword, and
Yeah.
I've got the sauce as well. So we're ready to go. So what do you want to do?
Ed, did you not read what put in there when I said that memo, that voice message?
Yeah,
I said,
sword and the sauce as well.
no, I said Sword and the Sorcerer. It's a movie that came out in 1982 with Lee
What?
Horsley.
Never heard of
S-
it. That sounds
So-
stupid anyway. Sauce.
sauce? What are you
Yes.
going to do with that?
Well, how about this?
Oh, Houston, I think we've got a problem.
Hi, this is Ed Dollister.
This is Mitch Halleck.
And welcome to another exciting episode of Mitch and Ed's Excellent Adventure. If it's your first time here, thanks so much for joining us. If you are a regular viewer, thank you so much for coming back, especially after Megaforce. Now, if you don't know a lot about our show, how can you find out some more?
Oh, Ed, it is as easy as waking up a demonic sorcerer from the dead and pledging your soul so that you could ruin a kingdom or rule a kingdom. Just simply press the button on the bottom and you'll be subscribed to the Mitch and Ed's Excellent Adventure. Hit the notification bell. You'll get notified when we do a new episode. And hit the like button just to say, I like what you guys do. So, Ed, today we're going to go back to ages past, into the mist of legend, just to do this great epic sword and sorcery movie that just so happens to have the same title as the genre it's in.
That's right. It's like calling Star Wars space movie. We've got Sword and the Sorcerer from 1982, directed by Albert Pune, and it's a bit of a cult classic. Now, before I ask whether you saw this in the cinemas or whether I saw it in the cinemas, I thought I would go to the Rating the Movies Guide from 1983, which has got pretty much all the classic and not so classic reviews of movies in here. And I'd like to give their review and see if we agree with it. So, The Sword and the Sorcerer, starring Lee Horsley and Richard Lynch. Non-stop sword fighting, torture, and other shenanigans dominate this hectic action adventure set in the Middle Ages. Some of the special effects are hair-raising, but the jumbled story abandons logic and the acting is strictly second-rate. Horsley heads the unfamiliar cast as an invincible warrior who takes revenge on a wicked conqueror. A spectacular mix of nonsense and fast-paced carnage. 2 stars. Do you agree with that review? And did you see
I take umbrage with that review because I did see this in the movie theaters and I loved it. I loved it so much. I saw it like 2 or 3 times that year. And 1982 was a crowded year for sci-fi fantasy movies with all the other Star Trek and E.T. and everything else that was coming out, Blade Runner. This
Megaforce?
movie, Megaforce, this movie I thought was fantastic. So much so, I loved it when it came out on VHS. I remember renting it and watching with my friends in college, and we would
Mhm.
laugh before Riff Tracks and the other thing, Mystery Science Theater. We would make up our own jokes as we watched the movie, and it was a fun movie. And then I'd forgotten about it for years, and then there was going to be a sequel. I'm jumping ahead a bit, but there was going to be a sequel that they
Tales
promised,
of an Ancient Empire, yes.
and they came through, and it really wasn't really a good sequel. And then I saw last year that this was coming out on 4K Blu-ray special edition, and I was quick to buy it, and I put it on the list, and I said, Ed, when the opportunity comes up, we must review The Sword and the Sorcerer because it's one of my favorite films of the 80s.
Wow.
There, yes.
So I never saw it when it came out because I was 12 when it came out, and it was, I think, maybe rated R here in
It was
Australia.
rated R here, yeah.
So that probably would have been rated M. It was a bit too adult. It's got some, just if there's any youngsters watching, it's got a bit of brief nudity, which I
yeah.
didn't remember at all, and quite a bit of gore as well in it. And I remember seeing it on video maybe probably in the mid to late 80s, and I used to
Yeah.
watch that with I think Deathstalker Your Hunter of the Future when I was
Yep.
going through all those, and of course Conan the Barbarian. It came out the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
year as Conan the Barbarian, but it is the most popular independent movie of 1982 on a, I
yes,
think, a $3 or $4 million budget. It
yeah,
made $39 million,
yes, it
and
did.
I watched it again yesterday, and some things jogged my memory, and some things I'm going, oh my god, that's pretty cool. That whole opening with Cromwell, played by Richard Lynch, who's a
Lynch, yeah,
fantastic character actor who you
yep.
would know from. Did you know actually Richard Lynch was in the first episode and the last episode of Starsky and Hutch?
I didn't know that. I know some more stuff about Richard Lynch if we want to
Yes.
do that. But are you done with your little like
Well, I was
remembrance?
just going to say that opening scene with the crypt, with the
Yeah,
faces in
the
it, and then
faces.
all,
Yeah, yeah,
there's some
yeah,
really good practical effects in there as well. And
yeah.
I actually quite enjoyed the story, and I'm surprised, given how much
Yes.
money it made, that it didn't get that sequel,
Well,
Tales of an Ancient Empire.
Tales of the Ancient Empire. Well, here's the deal. I was waiting for Conan the Barbarian to come out. That was the big budget movie. John Millis, James Earl Jones, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sundell Bergman. It was a
Basil
big,
Polidorus, great
yeah.
score.
And Mako was in there. The whole
Yes.
crew. Everybody knew Conan. In fact, I was reading a Conan the Barbarian book because he was, pulp novels, and then he had a line of comic books from Marvel Comics. Everybody knew Conan the Barbarian. It was a big deal. But this movie beat it to the race. This came out long before that, and it wasn't, like you said, it did not have a big budget or anything like that. It was like the little engine that could. You know what I mean? No one really thought about it, but it was out of the gate first. And I mean, don't know when the release date is. We can double check, but I could have swore it was like February or March.
It was
which
April.
Was April. Okay, yeah. I remember it being still cold outside, and there was like nothing playing back then. It wasn't like nowadays. There was like no movies from Christmas until like May. There was like nothing good came out. And I went to see this, and I didn't know what to expect because it wasn't based on a comic book. It wasn't based on a TV series and none of that. And like you said, I didn't know what to. It just took you along for the ride. And we hadn't seen special effects like that because it's long before CGI, and the makeup were practical effects. And you're right, it opens up with the first you got the crawl. It's like, come with us now to an ancient time.
And guess what? You know what?
What?
It must have been a 1982 thing because it was red text on a black background.
I know. Well, here's a little bit of tidbit. We're going to go along with this movie. We're going to tell you some tidbits. Oliver Reed was hired to do the narration of the opening crawl there, and he couldn't make it because either he had some bit of a drinking problem. Yeah. So what happened is, I believe Simon McCorkindale, who's in the movie, but long before Falcon Crest and all that other stuff, he's still a young actor. He does the narration, and Cromwell, like you said, played by Richard Lynch. Now, here's the thing about Richard Lynch I did know: talented actor, but unfortunately had some problem with substance and drugs. And I don't know if you know this, he set himself on fire, and he burned like 70% of his body
after an LSD trip.
Yeah. And he had burned like 70% of his body. So much so that I knock on wood, I've never been burnt that bad. But what happened is he couldn't sweat any longer. Like his pores were like scarred. So when he would do like local conventions and such, and even on set, he'd have to have fans with him to cool his body down because he couldn't sweat like normal people sweat, and then they cool down like that. Like you're sweating right now in that 100-degree temperature with your cape. Let the folks see how much you get into the show. Ed's not just wearing just a breastplate and a cape. He's got the full regalia on it. Look at that. You don't get this from those Minty shows and those other movie review shows. No, we go.
Well, we were
out.
joking that my costume is better than most of the cast of Willow, the TV series.
Yeah. So anyway, it just starts off with a bang, kind of like Raiders, and I'm going to say Raiders because that's alluded to by some of the review critics. In fact, even on the back of the box and the ads that they used to do in the newspapers for, it's just like Raiders of the Lost Ark, except with swords and sorcerers. And like, wow. Raiders was like the biggest thing going just 6-7 months prior to 1981. So if you're like Raiders, you've got to be good. So I remember going to see it, and it had a great movie poster.
Yes,
that was done in that. That's what do you, mythology, mystical,
So
Dungeons
the
and
artist
Dragons.
who did that
Yeah.
was a British artist, and he also did the movie poster for Alligator. But he did a lot of book covers. He's a British artist in the
Yeah.
UK, and did a lot of they had a lot of role play books by, I think it was Steve Livingston, I think. That you'd play and you'd roll a dice, and he'd do a
You
lot of
mean
the covers.
the early TSR books?
No, no, these were different. These were like standalone, like a novel. I'll put a picture
Oh,
up. So he
yeah.
did a couple of the cover arts for those, and a lot of Asimov and science fiction
Yeah,
things.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And it was not a low budget. Today, unfortunately, you can tell a low budget movie from the poster with those bad Photoshop,
Yeah,
asylum
yeah.
style movies.
No, it was really,
Hmm.
can't get a close up of it, but maybe we'll do a shot of it. But no, it was really well done. In fact, I've seen another version of this poster too,
Yes.
where they've got the actors' faces, like you'll see Richard Lynch and you see the sword. But anyway, it was a lot of fun. And I remember being freaked out by Richard Mall, who's eventually going to be Bull on Night Court years later.
Yes.
But he comes out as the evil sorcerer, Saffron. I can never pronounce the name.
No, it's
Whatever.
it's Zusia or
Zusia, that's it. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So he pops up, and then we go and we
Can
see
I
this
say an interesting
backstory.
fact about
Yeah,
that? When he popped up
yeah.
out of that liquid, the liquid and the contact lenses, they basically reacted and fused to his eyeballs. So he had to
He
go
had
to
to have
hospital to
surgery. Yeah,
have them removed. And there was a stand-in occasionally for him while that
yeah.
was so.
Well, yeah, I think that. Well, you're going to see the stand-in when they go to kill. We're going to ruin a lot of this movie if you haven't seen it. They go to kill him. They put a sword and they shove this guy off the side of a cliff. And the stuntman, again, all practical effects. The stuntman's falling through the sky into an airbag, hopefully. But
But no, he didn't. He actually died. That stuntman.
I know, I
Yes.
know, I know. But I didn't want to get into that. But
Oh,
yeah, passed away during the making of this film. But it was something to see. But
yes.
long before Mola Ram ripped out hearts, we have Richard Mall and you too ripping
Yep.
hearts out on
Like
screen.
using the
It was a
force.
pretty good effect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, look,
with the force kind of
some of
thing.
the makeup effects were really quite good. And costume design was really good. And I've got to say,
Yeah.
the lead, Lee Horsley, who
Yes.
most people will just know as Matt Houston, I think.
Yeah.
That's really his
Yep.
biggest, this and the Sword and the Sorcerer. And I actually had to pause a few times, and I go to Kelly, have a look at this. Doesn't he look like, or evoke a bit of the Errol Flynn?
Errol
And there were
Flynn. That's what
moments
I was going to say.
there were moments where he's very Errol Flynn like, and he's got. I think people knock the acting in this, at least in the reviews. And Richard
Oh,
Lynch, he won a Saturn Award for Best Supporting Actor,
yeah. Yeah.
for his role as Cromwell, and he was committed. I thought Lee Horsley had that twinkle in his eye
Yep.
and that sort of a bit
Bravado.
I can
The
see a bit
swagger.
Indiana Jones, a bit Han Solo,
Yeah. Yeah.
much more so than Conan the Barbarian would
Oh
be.
God, yeah, yeah, yeah.
He
Well,
was a
you know
real
what?
Errol Flynn type.
I think they were all having fun with this movie because it
Yes.
was such a low budget film. Albert Pune, this is his first major studio picture, because he was
Yes.
just like, he would walk around, he would tell the story how he would walk around with basically this big suitcase full of storyboards that he drew, and he had the story for a long time trying to get a film company to back him and give him the money. And he would knock on doors up and down Hollywood Boulevard and say, "Hey, I've got this movie, the Sword and Sword," and no one would listen to him. They kept shutting the door in his face. But because Columbia was making Conan the Barbarian, and Hollywood has a habit of just copying other people's ideas, they were like, "Wait, you've got something like that?" And he did, and he pulled this out. And they're like, "Yeah, we can give you a couple $1,000,000." They filmed it in California, like at a hotel that had an old medieval look to
Yes.
it. They were filming it in back alleyways and parking lots and things like that. So it wasn't like they were spending a lot of money. But like you said, the way they did it, it comes off as a much higher production than $4 million in the time. So,
Yeah,
but Lee
I agree.
Horsley's great. At the time, I think he had just come off a show called Nero Wolf with Cannon, William Conrad, and he played a
Okay.
character called Archie Goodwin. It's like an old
Yes.
detective, Nero Wolf. And I don't think Matt Houston had started yet.
No, Matt
was
Houston
still
was
ways.
like 80, I think 84, 85 or something
Yeah.
like that. So
And then I'm thinking about his age. I think Lee Horsley is about 60, 27 or so now. So he's only about 25 years old
Mhm.
or 26 in this
Yep.
movie, and he hasn't had a lot of films other than the Nero Wolf show. But no, I agree with you. He comes across as likable. He's got the big good looks of the movie star. You know, he's
Yes.
built like a football player, and he just comes across naturally. And like you said, he has a twinkle in his eye because I think he's having fun
Yes.
with the part. Like, like
Yeah.
Harrison Ford and even, dare I say Sam Jones and your
Yep.
heroes from those movies. And then you have Kathleen Beller, who was
Yes.
in
As Princess
Dynasty,
Alana.
which,
Yes.
yes, she
Did
was
you know? Did you know an interesting fact about Kathleen Bella? Do you know who she's married to?
yes, I do. Thomas Dolby.
Yes.
Blinded me with science, Thomas
Yes.
Dolby. That's why she's not doing any local comic conventions because they've got. Anyway, but no, because I thought about booking her for a show.
Yeah.
But no, she married Thomas Dolby, and she was also in a movie called The Betsy, which was like
yes.
a movie about cars in like 1978. So she was not well known, but she'd been
And she
familiar.
had a small part in Godfather Part 2 as well. And
Yeah.
everyone in this film is taking it seriously, but having fun while they're
Yeah.
doing it. Simon McCorkindale, you mentioned before, who I only just realized passed away
Yeah.
at like 58 or something like that.
I didn't know he was dead.
Ago.
I know. I felt bad. I looked him up. I go, wait, he died? So.
Yeah, because I'm sure I would have seen him in something. He was, of course, I know him from Manimal.
Manimal,
and other things as Micah. Now, the thing that confused me, we won't talk a long time.
Well, there's one other guy, and then we.
I know, but I was just going to say the thing that confused me about his character and Princess Alana is that I thought that Talon, Lee Horsley, was heir to the throne.
Yes.
So when Simon McCorkindale comes in as Micah saying he's heir to the throne, I thought he was an imposter trying to be Talon. And then when Talon started to hit on Alana, I'm going, hang on,
that's his sister.
What's going on? Yeah. And then I realized that Micah was actually, it was all, anyway.
Yeah, no, there is a little confusion because I thought that too when I saw it. I go, wait a minute, is that the same kingdom that he's trying to get back that they killed his father? And what? Who are these people? But no, then I realized, it must be a different one. I hope
different kingdom, different.
But no, the other characters in it is an actor named George Maharis, who is really famous for TV work. He was on a show called Route 66, which was with Martin Milner, and then he left that show.
I know the show, and he's been. He was, I think, in Mission Impossible. You see him a lot on.
He's one of those
TV.
guys.
He's one of those guest stars. Yes.
Oh, and then the other guy we forgot to mention that's going to pop up is the guy from Murphy Brown,
Joe Regabaluto.
Yes.
I hope I got his name right. Yeah, he was in there. Anthony DeLongis as well.
Anthony DeLongis, we know him from IndyCast stuff. He's an Indiana Jones stunt guy.
Yes.
But he's in this film. He taught Harrison Ford how to use the whip.
Yes.
And I know in Crystal Skull.
Yes, he was involved there. He was also, now I can't remember which character he played in Master of the Universe as well. But it's funny that his character was a bit of a coward in the whole thing. So he's sort of playing against type a little bit. And Red Brown was in it as well.
I thought that was Red Brown.
Yeah.
But as the guy that pops up in the prison to let them out?
Yes. And
I said that's Red Brown. I didn't look at the credits, but I go, I know that guy.
Now, because Red Brown is Captain America.
He's your Hunter from the Future. He's in
yes, and didn't
Uncommon
Albert
Valor
direct Captain America?
Yeah, he was Captain America on the TV movies.
But didn't the director of Sword and the Sorcerer direct?
Oh, he did. Yeah, Albert Pyun directed the. Oh, yeah, you're right. He did the weird
the 1990 one. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, with the rubber ears and such.
Yes, it's all connected.
Yeah, it's all. Oh, well, you know what? The money that they got to do this movie was part, and I messed it up on Megaforce a week ago. He got multiple picture deals. The producer, there was 4 movies he put out: Sword and the Sorcerer, another one I can't remember, and the 4th one he was involved with the financing of Blade Runner.
Ah, that's where
I was trying to remember last week. I was like, wait. There's some weird connection between Sword and Sorcerer and Blade Runner. And that's when I was thinking of the red type on the black background. I go, wait, there's a lot of weird stuff connecting these movies besides this. There's money behind the scenes. But no, it really surprised a lot of people because it was like one of these B movies that came out that would show up at drive-ins because drive-ins were still around back then. And you had second run theaters that would show like, not the major motion pictures, but like the ones that they could get for cheap. And then VHS and home video comes along, and a year or two later, and this movie found a whole new audience on that. In fact, I know I have like a copy of it. I think they did an unrated version that had
Yes.
more blood and guts in it.
It was pretty gory for
Well, it was rated R, and now I know why,
Yeah.
because I'm watching it going.
And there's sort of
no.
visual effect. I mean, you've got
Yeah.
Talon there who's crucified, who
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
is like Superman. Basically, he pulls himself off the
Yeah.
cross,
Yeah.
and then
Doesn't
all of a
fall.
sudden he's grabbing a sword like nobody's business. So, which was pretty.
Well,
funny.
yeah. Well, there's a weird. Okay, let's go back to the confusion part of the story, because I've always thought there was more to this that they cut out, and maybe they just couldn't film. There's a king who rules like the biggest kingdom, which I didn't realize this was based on real nations on the earth.
Huh.
There's a real kingdom. It's off the shore of like north of Greece or something. I was watching a making of it. They go, "Oh yeah, this country exists," and they showed where it was, and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know this was based in any form of reality, since we don't have sorcerers coming back from the dead." But apparently, they were real things. So his father is the enemy of Cromwell, played by Richard Lynch. And Richard Lynch goes and gets this demonic sorcerer, brings him back from the dead, uses his dark magic to control the army, so he wins these battles, and eventually he kills the king, Talon's father.
Of Ehdan, I think it was
Ehdan, that's it, Ehdan. And then the mother's trying to escape with his younger brother and his sister, and they're going onto a boat, and then the henchmen jump out of the boat. They kill his brother. We assume, we never see it, but it's off screen. The mother screams. Then the mother is beheaded by Cromwell, and the sister is taken away.
And that's where I thought that
Right.
Alana was the sister.
And then we find out that Talon has the coolest thing ever. This is the best part of this movie.
Oh yes.
He has a tri-bladed sword. It's a sword with 3 blades on it. If one blade isn't good, 3 blades is better. And
well, that's why he's got such a close shave.
I always think that it's so funny whenever I get a razor and it goes 3 or 4 blades. I'm like, wow, just like Talon had. That's how messed up we are. But not only does it do that, it looks like it was worked on by Q from James Bond, because it can fire the blades separately, and the blades come shooting out. And I'm like, why? We don't know. But they shoot out, and he uses it. And not only that, later on in the movie, spoiler alert, there's a secret dagger in the hilt that he presses a button, and another one comes out. I mean, it's
a Swiss Army knife of
Swiss. I was going to say it's a
swords.
Swiss Army sword made by Swiss Army. At the bottom of it, they had a little logo on. So he goes off. He gets his hand shot by a crossbow, and it's stuck in a tree. And I always thought as a kid that he lost his 2 fingers there, because he wears this weird glove.
Yeah.
And I thought he only had like 3 fingers or so, but doing one of these, insulting people across Europe right now. But he grows up from this scrawny kid with a bad Dutch boy wig, and then becomes Lee Horsley. Dun 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 dun. And he saves Kathleen Beller. And this is where you said the confusion comes in. It's not his dad's kingdom. I guess Cromwell has getting more kingdoms.
Yeah, I think that's it, because it makes sense in the end, but it was a little bit confusing, So,
well, her and her brother are trying to start a rebellion and take back their kingdom, and Talon, Lee Horsley's character, says he'll do it for her, but he doesn't want money. He doesn't want fame, fortune, and glory and all that stuff. He just wants to sleep with her for one night.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Not a bad deal. And then mayhem ensues.
Yes.
He gets caught. He goes running through the kingdom. And again, a lot of like Raiders Lost Ark, you'll see him running through, and there's guards chasing him. And he swings through, and he goes into a women's dressing room, harem, and then there's women, and that's the rated R part too, because we see nudity, we see breasts exposed, just like on this show.
That's right. Oh, no, please, let's cut that out.
Okay, kid friendly. And then he gets captured. We see Kathleen Beller in a somewhat nude scene, even though you just see her from behind, her buttocks, and then Yeah, you're right. We just actually fast forward to the wedding because that's what he says. Cromwell says, Kathleen Beller,
It
you're going to
predates
be my bride.
Game of Thrones. You know that
Right?
horror wedding where they're planning on killing everyone.
The red wedding. It's
Yep.
all right here because as one would do, he's up there getting married. Down below is a crucified Lee Horsley with these big spikes through, which, again, if you watch Conan the Barbarian that comes out a couple months later, they crucify Conan the Barbarian in that movie too.
Mm-hmm.
They put him up on a tree.
They did two versions of that too. They did one with the for the movie with his with the spikes in his hand, and then they did for the TV version him just tied up. So yeah.
Oh, you mean Conan?
No.
Sword and Sorcerer?
Sword and the Sorcerer, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know there was two versions.
Yeah, so you know the TV version, which cuts out a lot of the.
Well, how does he get out the? How does he get the thing untied then?
I don't know. I don't
because
know.
in the movie, he literally pulls his hand out with the spike coming through.
I thought he was going to start punching people with them. I thought that would have been
spikes. Awesome. That would have been cool. Like, oh, and then the guy's head stuck to his back of his hand. Like he just goes pimp slapping people and spiking them in the head. That would be something else. But no, I say that did not happen. And then so we get the big finale, and then we get the guy from there was a pirate king that was really great. He's like a Jamaican pirate guy. I remember we watched this in college. We loved that guy. He was in the brothel when they go, hey, you know, Talon's in trouble and we got to go rescue him. And next thing you know, they're all caught in the dungeon. Yeah. And he's like, you sea dog or whatever. I can't remember what they call him, but he's fun. And then I like how they're at the wedding banquet and you see these other kings. Hey, can you pass me the roast pork? Hey, wait a minute. Is that Talon up there being crucified? Yeah. Why, bless my soul, it is him. Oh, he owes me because he helped me here and he, you know, whatever. And everybody owes Talon a favor. Yes.
And they were some well-known actors as well. I'm trying to think of the King Leonidas was in did a lot of TV work. You'd recognize. Yeah. I thought the
one with the blonde curly hair.
I think it was yeah.
He looked familiar. But again, it's funny. And then to save money, I like how they do that mood stuff. They like knock over a cauldron and they get that red mist that hides the stuntmen, and you just see them in silhouettes as they suddenly.
That's why I've got that light on now at the moment because.
Yeah, I know that's not Ed right there. That's his stunt double actually. That's Ned Dollister.
That's right.
And it gets this cool battle, and then they go there, and you think it's over, but it's not because we go, hey, wait a minute, what happened to Richard Mall? Where is he?
Well, that's the other thing that confused me, as I didn't realize that Michelli was actually Zeusia.
I didn't know it either until the movie. I was like, how'd that happen?
Yeah, I don't know. I must have missed something.
Well, he's supposed to be so weakened because he got stabbed through the heart.
Yes.
When they brought him, that he's waiting underneath the ground, like living in this really cool cave.
Yes.
And he's waiting for his strength to come back. But somehow he managed to create this facade where he was the king's right hand, you know, major domo henchman.
Yeah, with his little bowl cut, you know, like
with his little Prince Valiant. He looked like Mr. Spock or something. He looked like a Vulcan.
Yes.
And then, in one of the coolest effects in the movie, he just rips his face in half. It's like just rips the mask off, and then inside,
and his hands peeling off. Why didn't I? And I'm going, Alana, why don't you run away during this? You could have gotten away.
She can't. She's being wrapped up by a big snake.
No, this was before the big snake came along.
Oh, that's right. When he reveals himself to her. Yeah. I don't know. Where's she gonna go? She's in a like a half naked wedding gown that, you know, I don't know whether they don't have that wedding gown more often. When I got married, I swear to God, I thought my wife was going to come down the stairs in that. Really? Didn't happen.
You didn't have a little bowl cut like this?
No,
I should have. Remind me a bit of Flash Gordon that ended the wedding, you know, with
the wedding. Yes, everybody rips off Flash Gordon, right?
I know. And then basically, Talon saves the day.
Yes,
and then he goes off to bed. Alana, which she's happy about, and they swing across into, I don't know where they're swinging to, but they swing across the ballroom or whatever.
Like Princess Leia and Luke. Yeah.
And then they cut to let's go on our next adventure. Hey, and they all ride off into the
And let
sunset.
me tell you, when that title card came up, look for Talon's next adventure, you know, Tales of the Ancient Empire, I was like, when's that coming out? Literally, I was in the theater eating the popcorn going, yeah.
Well, it came out in I think 2012 with
Came
Kevin
out later
Sorbo.
than expected. Yeah.
And
But
they had
it's
no money. They ran out of money. They had to do a lot of green screen. It is awful. The only
it's
thing
awful.
worth watching is that Lee Horsley comes back as Talon
Yeah, but
for
it's
a
got
cameo.
Kevin Sorbo's the star of it. They actually have two other actors listed that
Michael
aren't even in the
Paré.
movie.
They've got
And
Michael
Christopher
Paré.
Lambert.
Sorry,
I thought it was Christopher Lambert was listed. He's not in the movie.
I don't know if he's in it, but they've got definitely Michael Paré is in it, and a lot of
Yeah, any of
other
the
people.
cruisers.
Yeah,
No, and it's like, what happened there? So Albert Pune goes off to make the king of like the B movies. He does
yeah. Doll
Cyborg,
Man, I think he did.
Cyborg 1 and 2, maybe with Van Damme, and then he
Yeah,
does like a series of these other movies that were like,
was it like
400 like.
Annihilators or something? He did it. Yeah, look it up on IMDb. But
And then sadly, he just passed away like about 2 months ago. It
he
was
did,
like
yes.
he was living in Hawaii. But I don't know. I mean, it's a fun movie. I thought it had potential for it. There's no lunch boxes.
No,
Wait,
there's a novel.
is?
There is a novel,
I have the
and
novel.
there is
Did
a
Alan Dean
coloring.
Foster write the novel?
No, I don't think so. A coloring in book.
No way. Why? On a rated R movie, they made a coloring book?
Yeah, it doesn't really look like anything from the movie. I'll put up some pictures of it.
No. And like I said, merchandise wise, I remember getting the uncut VHS that had like a couple minutes of extra gore in it. And then this just came out,
Yes.
which is the 4K translation. And it's got some behind the scenes stuff. You got interviews with Kathleen Beller, audio commentary with Albert Pune before he passed away, the makeup artist, special dedication to that stuntman who passed away. But I don't know. When it came out, I told you I remember watching Siskel and Ebert, and Gene Siskel loved it. He thought it was in the same vein as Raiders.
Mhm.
It was a lot of fun. And Ebert almost gave it a thumbs up, but he was on the edge because he thought it was a little muddled with the story. But he also agreed that the special effects and the makeup stuff were top notch for what they had to work with. But I don't know. I know it's got a cult following. I know I'm not the only one that likes it. And I think there's a comic book Kickstarter. Someone's trying to do the adventures.
And I think a board game as well. They were looking at doing a.
Was there a board game?
Yeah. Or they're looking at, I don't know if it's Kickstarter as well. But it's funny because
it lends itself to like sequels. I know it didn't happen, but you were like, it made 10 times its budget.
I know it's odd that it wasn't a flop, and most of the time you would with the stuff we cover, apart from those big budget ones, are flops. But this was
look at Megaforce.
Yeah,
Megaforce was $20 million.
Please look at our Megaforce video that we did. I'll put it up now.
I thought about that the other day. I was talking to somebody about Megaforce, and he was like, "Oh, that movie was terrible." I said, "Yeah, but it had a lot of cool ideas.
Yeah,
it just didn't come across well. I don't know, if it could ever be salvaged, but you liked it. You liked it.
I know. Let's not taint this video with Megaforce. Otherwise, we want more than 3 viewers. All right.
No. I think the Sword and the Sorcerer has a big cult following, maybe more than Megaforce. But Lee Horsley's still with us. He went on to, like you said, Matt Houston. Then he did a show called Hawkeye with Linda Carter. He played the title character from Last of the Mohegans. He did another one that I can't remember that was around in the early 90s. It was like a soap opera thing, like Prophet or something like that. But he's still around. I mean, Lee Horsley's still there. If he's watching, come to the show. He doesn't do much acting anymore.
No, he's probably, just enjoying retirement, maybe semi-retirement.
Yeah, I heard he's got a great singing voice, though. Believe it or not. Yeah.
You could get him a Terrificon.
He was a good-looking actor. He was one that that cut of all these guys in the early 80s could have been there. You know who was up for this role? David Hasselhoff.
Yes, he was.
And they said he was too skinny, I think, and that's why they turned
his legs.
Down.
Or no, what was
his legs were? No, his legs were too skinny. You're right. That's what they said.
That's right. But
I think there was some other famous guy that tried out.
Yeah.
I don't know. It could have been. I don't know. Maybe been Bruce Jenner.
A young Mitch Halleck. I don't know.
No, I thought this movie was great. This is up there with like Beastmaster. That's another one we haven't covered yet. They made a couple of those. You never saw Beastmaster with Mark Singer?
I did. I saw it. I never saw the other ones though, but
No, I never saw the other ones too, but that had Tanya Roberts, Rip Torn, and
yeah,
Mark Singer as the Beastmaster, and
yeah.
John Amos was in it
Oh,
too.
okay.
Yeah,
Some
it was
good times.
Beastmaster was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Okay. I might. We'll. I'm sure we will be.
No, and then
covering Beastmaster
we're
at
gonna
some point. Yep.
no, we're gonna get onto other ones because you talk about Willow. There's Willow. There's Dragon Slayer. There's Lady Hawk. There's a lot of sword and sorcery movies in the '80s for some reason. I mean,
Oh yeah. Well, we've got to talk about Dragon Slayer because I've got the poster and all that, and the
well,
book.
that's the
And
reason
everything.
why.
We'll
Yeah,
have to talk about that, and I can. We should have done it right after this. Actually, I couldn't. I
could have gone right
didn't
into that
change.
one. Yeah,
I didn't have to
yeah.
change.
Don't bother. Wear that outfit again. We'll have a
I,
sequel to it.
okay, we will. So
Yeah, but you know what?
what?
Dragon Slayer had the formula where they had Ralph Richardson. I think a lot of these other movies would have like a big famous Shakespearean actor. You can even say Clash of the Titans
Oh yeah,
was
with
another one because
Laurence
that
Olivier.
had
Yeah.
Laurence Olivier in it and stuff, and Burgess Meredith and Harry Hamlin and a cast of thousands. But a lot of these movies just never broke that Star Wars barrier. They never became these giant $100 million mega hits.
Yeah. No.
Don't know why.
Well, watch it. You can find it on 4K. You can also find it on Tubi as well, where you can watch it for free if you want to. How can you find out and watch more about our show, Mitch?
Oh, Ed, it is as simple as getting a tri-bladed sword and shooting at the heart of your enemy and watching him writhe in pain on the ground. All you do is hit the subscribe button below, and you'll be able to watch us anytime. And a lot of you have, actually. Our numbers are going up, so keep on doing it. And
We've
keep
had
doing
over, I think it was over 45,000 views for the channel, which
I
is
know.
pretty amazing. So
We
thank
had
you
more
so
views
much.
than Megaforce. More
Yeah.
than Megaforce.
That's right. If you do have a suggestion for a show or a comment, we always love to read those as well. So you can do that below. But that's it for our sword and the source episode. Oh, it's upside down.
Yeah, I know. I fixed
That's
it.
okay. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. This is Ed Dollarstaff.
And this is Mitch Halleck.
And bye for now. See ya.